Springfield. Okay. Are you gonna be in Philly?
Hi, everyone. We're about to get started, so if we can please find our seats, that would be great. You're going to hear a bell ring, and then the choir will sing, and you will see our graduates here momentarily. Thank you for joining us today.
We're on the road to freedom until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. So much work to be done. We are here to make the dream true. And together that's what we'll do. We are here, we will change the tide. Step by step, standing side by side. We're on the road to freedom until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. If you're broken, I'll carry you. When I'm weary, you'll see me. On this road, you'll not be weak. And we'll never accept defeat. We're on the road to freedom until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. We will fight where evil lies. We will sacrifice. There's no compromise. On this road we're prepared to die. We will stay the course. We will run. We're on the road to freedom until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. So much work to be done. We're on the road until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. So much work to be done. We're on the road to freedom until the war is won. We're on the road to freedom. So much work to be done. We're on the road to freedom until the war is won.
Okay, please join me in thanking the World House Choir for being with us today. Good morning and welcome to Antioch College's 11th commencement. My name is Jane Fernandez and I have the honor of serving as president of Antioch College. It's with great pleasure and excitement that I welcome you all to the Foundry Theater at Antioch College today to celebrate the graduating class of 2025.
Yeah.
I want to begin by thanking the members of the community who made this day possible. The commitment to one of Antioch's core values, community, is exemplified in the work they do each day. Members of the Commencement Committee, please rise as we thank you and recognize all you do. Monique Cooper, Caitlin Reck, David Kamler, Paige Babb, yes, please rise, that means stand. Paige Babb, Forrest Bright, Sherry Ely, Anita Brown, Kevin Stokes, Noah Street, Michaela Hall, stand, yeah, okay, and Trinity Harris Brewer. In addition to the Commencement Committee, I want to thank the following groups for helping uphold and further Antioch's mission and for supporting our students. Will the Board of Trustees please rise and remain standing? Will the President's Cabinet please rise and remain standing? Will the faculty please rise and remain standing? Will the staff please rise and remain standing? Alumni and volunteers, please rise and remain standing. Family and friends, please rise and remain standing. Graduates, oh wow, please graduates, take a look around at all these people who have supported you in your journey. And remember how they've helped you bring you to this moment. Okay, you may be seated. Awesome, awesome. There's no doubt that this year has felt heavy in a lot of ways. We have navigated changes in higher education and witnessed groups of people throughout the nation face injustice on a daily basis. We have all felt the chaotic impact of these pivotal moments in some way. I would now like to take a moment of silence to remember and honor people affected by these injustices, loved ones who could not be here with us today, friends and mentors. Each plays a pivotal role in shaping who we are as individuals. Please especially remember Mary Evans, class of 2020, who was a pillar of our community and passed away this week. We feel her loss very deeply. Okay, thank you. Okay, in the midst of all that this nation faces, Antioch College and the people who make up our community continue to be a beacon of light and hope. This commitment into the fabric of who we are as a liberal arts institution. We are grounded in the belief that every person deserves a safe and supportive space to learn, grow, and become who they're meant to be. We see that light in our students every day. We witnessed them using their voices and hearts for justice, organizing around the urgent issues facing our communities and our nation. Whether it's participating in immigration working groups, using art as a form of expression, advocating for LGBTQ plus rights, marching in protest, or bringing critical educational opportunities to campus, our students take bold and principled action. We know that uncertainty lies ahead, but we also know, without any question, the mark Antioch graduates will leave on the world. As long as we are here, we'll continue to fight for the just and equitable future we know is possible. We remain steadfast in our core belief that scholarship and life experience are most powerful when linked, and that diversity in all its forms is essential in education. To our graduates, congratulations. I'm proud of the work you've done and the boldness of your convictions. As you embark on the next leg of your journey, know that you are prepared to stand firm in your beliefs and to let your passion guide the meaningful work that lies ahead. Today, as we celebrate our students, the dreamers, doers, and disruptors of tomorrow, we also pause to recognize a leader whose steady presence and moral clarity have shaped the course of this institution. Shelby Pearl Chestnut, Chair of the Board of Trustees, who will conclude a decade of service this fall. Shelby has made history as the youngest and only transgender board president of a college ever. Shelby embodies the Antioch spirit not only as a board chair, but also as the executive director of the Transgender Law Center during a time of glaring attacks on transgender youth. In a time when higher education faces uncertainty and division, Shelby offers something rare: courageous leadership rooted in justice, transparency, and love for Antioch. It's not uncommon to hear from a staff member or student who shares that Shelby pulled them aside to just ask how they're doing. No agenda, no title involved, just one person checking in on another. That's the kind of leader Shelby is. He's also the first to volunteer when there's a need, whether it is helping to move boxes, stepping into a conversation others are hesitant to have, or bringing his uncle to campus to help do a facilities needs assessment. Shelby shows up, always. He has been a fierce advocate for students, a patient partner to presidents, and a wise and principled guide through moments of existential risk. When we needed to speak up, Shelby made sure we did. When we needed to listen more deeply, Shelby modeled that too. He brought his full self, his lived experience, his organizing spirit, his keen intellect into every conversation. He reminded us that Antioch isn't just a college, it's a promise to the world. He mobilized from a distance a group of Antiochians who advocated for housing opportunities which are sorely needed. And now we are actually working on a vibrant college footprint and new ideas for bringing apartments and housing to the village. And it's no exaggeration to say, without Shelby, we might not be here. His leadership helps us stay grounded, his clarity reminds us to name our values, and his trust helps us believe in ourselves. Antioch is not the same college it was when Shelby took the helm. Antioch is stronger, more resilient, and well-equipped to thrive through uncertain times, steadfastly centered in the student experience. Shelby has exhibited great tenacity, courage, and care as a board chair, and without doubt has won victories for humanity. So as we mark this commencement, a new beginning, and we honor graduates, we also honor the conclusion of one of the most extraordinary chapters in Antioch's history. Shelby, you are and always will be one of the great lights in our history. On behalf of the entire Antioch community, we thank you. Okay, please join me now in welcoming Mars Bonilla Gilgenbach, who will share our land acknowledgement.
Hello. In honor of our 11th commencement ceremony, I'd like to share a few thoughts regarding the acknowledgement of Native and Indigenous spaces. A land acknowledgement is an important path and a first step to dismantling racial and colonized oppression within our spaces. Indigenous nations have always formally welcomed and acknowledged land territories when hosting visitors and when traveling to neighboring communities. The land is not just merely a space that bodies occupy. It is a depository of culture, story, history, and tradition. And it is with these traditions in mind that we reflect and center ourselves and our thoughts towards respect. Please join us as we acknowledge and honor the word Ohio. Honor that the word Ohio comes from the Iroquoian word Ohio, which for good rivers, and was a place of gathering and ceremony, trade and exchange, food growing and sharing and story, and respect for culture. The Iroquoian, Susan, and Angokun speaking peoples are still here. We can never separate the people from the land, for this land longs for its people. We acknowledge the homeland of the Shawnee, Delaware, Potawatomi, Miami, and Wyandot, Seneca, Chippewa, Ottawa, and the Wapakoneta. Over 39 historic nations and bands call this land home. Today, we are gathered on the land that was unceded and stolen. I ask you to acknowledge these communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. We are committed to the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. We acknowledge that this place was founded upon exclusions and erasures of Indigenous knowledge and about how to care for these lands. We are obligated to support and educate each other with accurate information about the true history of this land. Decolonization means that we will strive to be in service of the water and the rivers and the animals in relational solidarity with them. And as people now on this land, we must do what we can to provide nature and wildness with protection and defense. This land acknowledgement was authored by Shane Creeping Bear in collaboration with Chief Ben Barnes of the Shawnee tribe based in Miami, Oklahoma, whose people were forcibly removed from the Ohio areas around Wapakoneta in 1831. Other contributors include Don Knickerbocker and support from the Urban Native Collective. Land back.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sleeping on the job. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for those very kind and unnecessary words, Jane. So my name is Shelby Chestnut. I'm so glad to be here with all of you. This is a shorter person's mic. I'm class of 2005, and I'm chair of the Board of Trustees. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to congratulate the class of 2025. I'm incredibly proud of the work and the leadership I've seen you do over the last several years. And I think, as Jane has pointed out, you're graduating during a time that's very painful in this country's history, but I also feel that you're equipped to face the world ahead and be the agents of change we desperately need. As Antioch celebrates 175 years this year, can you believe it? It's a very old institution, but you're the 11th class, so we've got a really rich history. I'm reminded that much of you entered during a time of unprecedented times with the global pandemic. And it actually reminds me of when I entered college, which was a few months after September 11th, 2021. I think both of those moments shaped so much of the world that we're being asked to navigate today. In 10 or 25 or 50 years, I hope that we can all look back and remember the side of history that we chose to be on and know that we were successful because we looked out for each other and made sure that our table was big enough for anyone who wanted a seat. I think whether it's racial justice, immigrant rights, safety for trans people, access to healthcare, anti-war movements, a pro-worker and anti-poverty agenda, or disability justice, all of our issues are connected, and you exemplify that. People always ask me why I'm so passionate about Antioch College, and it's simple, it's because of you. Watching all of you find your voice and meet your people and learn to work alongside each other and sometimes disagree is actually a revolutionary act. Antioch has a way of getting into your DNA and sticking with you for your life. I'm reminded of that today by graduates like Ray Graham, who is graduating after being recruited by a classmate of mine, who's a dear friend, who's in the audience today, or Pamela Ibarra Martinez, who I first met as a first year, and she was wild, but she became one of my dearest friends, and we often will talk for hours on the phone about community care and governance. And I often remind her that I think the long game is what she's doing, but she doesn't always have to worry about the immediate moment. So thank you, Pamela, for being one of my teachers. I think Antioch has taught us all something important. It's that the impossible is possible. I know that I'm certainly proof of that, and I think, I appreciate what Jane said, but I'll just say it in a much less eloquent way. I came to Antioch having barely graduated high school, being rejected by most of my peers, and having a family that just wanted me to survive. And I saw Antioch on the internet, and I saw queer people, and I saw people that had blue hair, and I thought, that seems like a place for me. And I interviewed, I got in. My admissions letter actually got lost in the mail because it was mailed out on September 11th, 2001. And they called me in November and they said, "Are you coming?" And I was like, well, did I get in? And I came here and it changed my life. It made me understand that all of these issues are connected and that I actually had a place in leadership. And I stand before you now, as Jane said, I was the youngest board chair probably in the country's history to some extent, but certainly Antioch's history. And I share that not to be self-congratulatory, but to really ask you all that when you're doing these next steps in life and leaving Antioch and leaving Ohio or staying in Ohio, know that you have a place to come back here, that this place is really because of you. And I think we're in a moment where we need to show up for our authentic selves, and we need to look out for one another, and we need to cry out injustice when we're seeing it. And I think you've allowed me to see a better version of myself, so I hope that I can help you see the version of yourself that you want to continue to be in 5, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I'll end with this, that I think we should all take a moment, all of us, not just the graduates, to look around and hold each other. Antioch is a super close-knit community, and we've worked alongside each other, and sometimes, again, not always gotten along, but you've gotten here. And I think that you need to take this moment and really take it in, support each other, and celebrate. I'm super proud of you, and congratulations. I'd now like to welcome Brian Norman to the stage, Antioch's provost, who's going to take us to the next section. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelby. We very much appreciate your leadership, especially at this moment in our nation. I'm Brian Norman, provost here at Antioch College, and it's really fitting that one of our first speakers is a graduating student selected by the community. Antioch is a storied place. We've always been and continue to be a college that changes lives, and in the process, we're a college that changes the world. Antioch has had an outsized role in American history and higher education across 3 centuries. This year we celebrate 175 years, our demi-semi-sept centennial. Thank you, Natalie Kubat, for helping us celebrate this milestone. Antioch was an early force in integrating American colleges and paying women equitably at its founding. It revolutionized liberal education with a focus on integrating scholarship and life experience. It fueled multiple social movements across the Black freedom movement, women's liberation, gay liberation, the student movement, indigenous rights, and so much more. Generations of Antiochians learned how to put ideas into action, ask bold questions, and never settle for the world as it is. And then many return to campus each year to remind themselves of their early hopes, and then to roll up their sleeves to keep this special place running, often against all odds. Each of our graduating students carries on that legacy, and in turn, they show us what that looks like today and what that might look like tomorrow. And so here we have our student speaker. Lee Wade is a Black transmasculine producer, storyteller, and trans rights advocate from Dayton, Ohio. He is passionate about using media as a tool for education, empowerment, and social change. Through storytelling and sound, Lee aims to uplift underrepresented voices, spark difficult but necessary conversations, and challenge dominant narratives. He's graduating today with a Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Arts and Creative Practice, and focusing on broadcasting and audio journalism. During his time at Antioch, Lee interned at WYSO, where he developed Translucent, a podcast and audio journalism project that humanizes the trans experience. Lee is especially interested in storytelling through media and how honest, intentional storytelling can encourage empathy, build community, and inspire collective understanding. After graduation, he will begin a fellowship with the Public Media Journalists Association and plans to continue his education in journalism in the future. Lee, please share your words with us.
Thank you, Brian, for the introduction. Good morning, Antioch faculty, proud family members, loved ones, and most importantly, my wonderful classmates. Thank you, Antioch faculty, for allowing me to speak today. I am nervous, and this is completely out of my comfort zone. And and it's an honor, and I am more than grateful for this opportunity. Class of 2025, we did it. When we first stepped onto the Antioch campus, we all were uncertain, excited about what Antioch had to offer, and maybe even a little scared or anxious about fitting in. For sure, I know I was. At just 17 years old, I was so happy and humbled to be the first in my immediate family to experience college. This is a dream of mine, and I've always wanted to set a good example for my little brothers. Coming to Antioch, we all carried our own stories, our own struggles, and our own hopes for the future. For me, my first year took an unexpected turn when my dad was sentenced to 3 years in prison. It was a moment that turned my world upside down, leaving me feeling lost, overwhelmed. I made the difficult decision to leave Antioch, And during that time, I couldn't imagine myself graduating. I doubted myself. I questioned whether I belonged here or whether I could handle the pressures that I was going through. But something about Antioch kept calling me back. The community, the unique educational experience, the support from my professors and advisors, the love and acceptance that I felt here as a trans person, my dad telling me to keep going, and the belief that I was capable of walking across this exact stage. Coming back to Antioch to finish my degree was the best decision that I ever made. And standing here today with you all proves that resilience and determination can carry us even through the darkest times in our lives. I should mention that my dad, Danny Wade, is celebrating today with us in the crowd as a free man. I share this story because I know that I'm not the only one who has faced struggles during this academic journey. Each of us has had moments of doubt and obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. But if there's one thing that we've learned here at Antioch, it's that we are not the first to overcome adversity. And we get through by being in community with each other and supporting one another. Here at Antioch is where I began learning what it means to be in community and why community is so important. Community isn't just about sharing space and resources with each other. It's about making sure that we all are seen, heard, and valued. The first time that I experienced this was during first year orientation in South Gym. What are your pronouns? Antioch faculty asked me. It's such a simple question, but at that moment, I felt acknowledged in a way that I hadn't before. That simple question told me that this is a place where people cared, not just about what I did academically, but about the human being that I am. That moment and other experiences like it here at Antioch showed me the kind of impact that a thoughtful and inclusive community can have on its people. Antioch made me more aware of how important it is to create spaces where others feel safe and respected. Respect is a word that my dad, Danny Wade, instilled in me. He would tell my twin sister and me, respect will carry you a long way. And he's right. Respect is the foundation of every meaningful connection that we build. It's what allows us to listen instead of just hearing, to understand instead of assume, and to create space for different perspectives. Respect opens doors professionally, socially, and personally. Because when people feel respected by us, they are more willing to work with us, to trust us, and to grow alongside us. But as we move beyond Antioch, we may find ourselves in spaces where community and respect are not rooted in the culture. That is where we, as Antiochians, come in. It's up to us to take what we've learned here and bring it with us. Let us be the ones who value people, who uplift people, who listen, who create space for different perspectives. Let us be the ones who make room at the table. Let us be the ones who ask, what are your pronouns? Before I go, I'd like to express my gratitude and give people their flowers, figuratively. Dad, thank you for instilling strength, respect, and love into me, and for always reminding me that I am somebody. My twin sister Demaya and my little brother Joseph, thank you both for being my biggest supporters and for always uplifting me. Emily Seibel and Penny Adamson, thank you for welcoming me into your family and treating me as your son. To my advisors, Michael Caselli and Luisa Bureri, my professors here at Antioch, and my mentors, Chris Welter and Will Davis. Thank you for your guidance, for pushing me to grow and challenge myself, and for believing in me when I doubted myself. I wouldn't be here without any of you, and I am forever grateful. To the class of 2025, let's carry this sense of community with us, not as a memory, but as a mission. The world needs more of Antioch. Thank you, Antioch.
Thank you, Lee, for those inspiring remarks. You belong here. Your voice matters, and we want to hear more of it. And we look forward to seeing what's next for you. You make us proud here at Antioch. Lots of people make us proud here at Antioch, so we want to take the opportunity to recognize a few folks who we've lifted up in the community this year from some of our annual awards, some of whom are in the audience today. We each year honor 3 members of our community, faculty and staff, with Soci Awards. This year's recipient of the Campus Impact Award is Dr. Queen Zabriskie. This year's recipient of the Faculty Excellence Award is Dr. Anna Chiaretta Lavatelli. And this year's recipient of the Staff Excellence Award is Zavani Vonnie Brooks. And then last year, we got smart and realized we also need to lift up students who are showing us our Antioch values in action. So this is the 2nd year of the Horace Mann Student Excellence Awards, or the Mannies. And this year, the Horace Mann Award for Excellence in Scholarly and Creative Inquiry is none other than Lee Wade. Year's recipient of the Horace Mann Award for Excellence in Meaningful Work was Brace Cooper. And finally, this year's award recipient of the Horace Mann Award for Excellence in Community Citizenship is Mars Bonilla Gogambach. And now we get to have a special treat and share with you a bit of what we think makes Antioch important and special. Today we get to see history come together in one place, a reenactment of a portion of Dr. King's 1965 commencement speech here at Antioch. Soon, remarks from Reverend Dr. William Barber II, who's carrying on that movement today. And then we just heard from a student speaker who is showing us a way forward. And this comes in the context of all year Antioch has been reflecting on our proud history of social justice and our responsibility today to carry on that legacy. And this has been happening especially through the programming from the Coretta Scott King Center for Cultural and Intellectual Freedom, directed by Dr. Queen Zabriskie. In February, a global racial and social justice summit invited to campus over 100 artists, activists, academics, students, and community members. In May, we reflected on Coretta Scott King and Bayard Rustin in an original performance called Loving is the Answer, right here in the Foundry Theater. And then on Thursday, Antioch hosted Juneteenth celebrations in partnership with the Yellow Springs Juneteenth Committee. And now we are honored to get a taste of a small portion of that powerful day, and to introduce it, I ask Dr. Zabriskie to join us up here.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Awesome. So Antioch has a powerful legacy. And this year we celebrated the 60th anniversary of the commencement speech that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered on June 19th, 1965. The speech, titled Facing the Challenge of a New Age, spoke powerfully about the end of colonialism in Africa and Asia, and segregation in the United States, the importance of developing a world perspective, fighting against poverty, and ending racial discrimination, and working for peace. King's motivating message still rings true today. His message about our interdependency, agape, unconditional love, nonviolence, the importance of caring for self and others, and those, especially those less fortunate than us. And as we look around today, that new age that he so hopefully spoke about in his speech is under attack, right? And I myself, looking at Antioch as an institution and our actions, looking at the actions of individuals at our institution, especially our amazing and powerful graduates, know that Antioch is continuing our legacy and resisting. And resist we must. Right? We must continue to resist. And so we had the pleasure of honoring that legacy on Thursday. And we worked with the Yellow Springs Juneteenth Committee and the Zeta Delta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated to commemorate the speech with both a celebration that included the dedication of a plaque. And if you haven't seen the speech, I encourage you to go ahead and look at the speech. It's on YouTube. And if you haven't seen the plaque on campus yet, you're about to go to a mound ceremony and you'll be able to see the plaque because it was installed on Wednesday right next to, in the field where the mound ceremony will happen. Additionally, if you haven't yet been to the second floor of the Herndon Gallery, we have a Juneteenth visual display that's still there that you can go and look at some pictures that talk about the history of Juneteenth. And those of you who don't know, Juneteenth, right, is the holiday that commemorates the day when enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas learned that they had been emancipated, right? Union troops had to go around the country and enforced the end of slavery. Right? So June 19, 1865, right, was that date. And so that visual display created by Kevin Magruder and Forrest Bright is in the Herndon Gallery on the second floor. The celebration also included the recitation of excerpts from King's speech by different members of the Antioch and Yellow Springs community, one of whom attended the speech as a child, as an 11-year-old child. Yes. And we have the honor of having Reverend Dr. William Randolph, one of the individuals who recited the excerpt, here with us today to share a section from the speech on the theme of the importance of working for peace and against war and bloodshed. Dr. Randolph is a pillar in the Yellow Springs community and the pastor of First Baptist Church, which was established in 1863, making it the oldest historically Black congregation in Yellow Springs. So join me, please, in welcoming Reverend Randolph to the stage.
Grace and peace to you all of this morning. I thank God for the gracious invitation to be here and to share with you. Then that is another final challenge facing us. In a sense, it's tied to the challenge of getting rid of racial injustice. And that is that we are challenged more than ever to work to bring to an end war and bloodshed. The ugly conflict in Vietnam today reveals to us that another war, a world war, is hovering mighty low. The clouds of such a war are hovering mighty low. If we assume that mankind has the right to survive, if we assume that we have a right to exist, then we must find some alternative to war and bloodshed. In a day when man-made vehicles are dashing through outer space and guided ballistic missiles are carving highways of death through the stratosphere, no nation can win a war. It is no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence. It is either nonviolence or non-existence. And so we have got to work now vigorously and with zeal to make peace a possibility. And we must be willing to engage in action programs to keep this issue before the conscience of the nation and the world. We must be willing to engage in demonstrations to keep this issue before the conscience of our nation. It is through an economic and political program that will convince the people of the world that only in a democratic society can man prosper and develop to his full potential. Democracy can only be extended insofar as social justice exists and is being vigorously pursued. Problems that are basically social and political and economic cannot be solved by military means. I said in my Nobel Prize lecture, and must repeat again, that the resources of America, technical, natural, and human, must be dedicated to the improvement of mankind. We can only do this by supporting the democratic forces in the world. Our guns and our bombs do not prove that we love democracy, but that we still believe that might makes right. We have come to a point in international affairs where all men of goodwill must explore the extension of nonviolence on an international level, for we who love democracy must see to it that peace and democracy must become realities throughout the world. This, it seems to me, is a great challenge facing our nation and facing the world. All that I've said boils down to the point of affirming that mankind's survival is dependent on our ability to solve the problem of war, a problem of racial injustice, to solve the problem of poverty, and to solve the problem of war. We have inherited a big house, a great big house, in which we must live together. Black and white, Easterners and Westerners, Gentiles and Jews, Catholics and Protestants, theists and humanists, Muslim and Hindu, a family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never again live without each other, must learn somehow in this one big world to live with each other. This is our opportunity. This is our great challenge. And I submit to you this morning that as we go out in this day ahead, in this new age that is emerging, the great challenge facing us is to be participants, involved participants in the struggle to make brotherhood and justice realities in our day and in our age. There are still many detached spectators. There are still too many silent onlookers. But in the words of the first president of this great college, the great man, be ashamed to die until you have gained some victory for humanity. This means becoming involved in all of the struggles of mankind to make this nation, to make this world better. It is now my honor to introduce our commencement keynote speaker, the Reverend Dr. William Joseph Barber II, an esteemed leader and powerful voice for justice and equality across the nation. Reverend Barber is president and senior lecturer of Repairers of the Breach, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, and the founding director of the Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale Divinity School. A MacArthur Genius Fellow, he also serves as a member of the National Board of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and is the chair of his legislative Political Action Committee. He is renowned not only for his fierce commitment to justice, but also for his radical compassion. From rural North Carolina to the steps of the U.S. Capitol, his ministry has centered the lives of those who often left at the margins: poor and working people, immigrants, people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus communities, and so many others who struggle under unjust systems. His work aligns with the college's enduring commitment to social change and belief that diversity is a fundamental component of education. Please join me in welcoming and giving a warm welcome to the Reverend Dr. William Joseph Barber II. Bless you, brother preacher. Bless you.
Hello, Antioch and the Antioch family. Let's thank all of those who have gone before us, our brother preacher, our jackleg preacher, Lee. Let's thank him for that. Let us. As you were speaking today, I couldn't help remember this is the 37th anniversary of the day that I buried my father. And I understand what it means to say your father's free and here in the audience, and I honor all of that today. I'll never forget your "let us" phraseology today, for indeed, the greatest word I believe in the justice vocabulary is "we." It's not what I can do, but what we can do. When down in the South, we say, when us get together. But when we come together, to all of the parents and faculty and members of the trustees, let's give it up for your powerful president. Amen. And thanking her for all of her. I was talking yesterday to Bernice King about her mother's matriculation here in Antioch. And the true part of history is it wasn't all smooth. She wasn't allowed to do her student teaching in Yellow Springs because at the time, despite where Antioch was, in some ways, the community still lived in some segregation. And she was here, 6 years, and then left and went to Boston. and later on came back. I think Antioch gave her honorary doctoral degree. But as we were talking, she reminded me that it is possible that if even in the frustration that she faced in the surrounding community, because, you know, the fight for justice is not always off way somewhere else. Many times it's right in around us. And even every now and then, liberal institutions, we have to check ourselves. We can think sometimes we got it all together, but sometimes we have some issues we need to work on right in our midst. Amen, lights. But she said in the midst of it all, if she had not been 2 years late, she may not have met Martin, because she was 2 years older than Martin. And if she'd gone to Boston earlier, she may have never met Martin. So even in our tribulations and troubles, the spirit, or what King called the Zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, is always at work. You know, when King gave that speech here in Antioch, let us not forget that when he first gave the speech at Riverside and talked about silence being betrayal, and he lifted up poverty and racism and war as being the three triune evils. After that, and challenged the war in Vietnam, after that speech, 150 newspapers wrote articles against him. He lost his open invitation to the White House. Almost every civil rights organization wrote resolutions against him. Many of his friends in ministry, he had already been put out of the Baptist Convention. That's why the Progressive Baptist Convention came into existence. And when he came to Antioch, he probably came here because it was one of the few places that would still let him come. He couldn't even go to colleges that bore the name of the denomination that he and his grandfather and others were part of. But thank God that there was still Antioch, where he could come and lift the word that God had given him. And I wonder sometimes, often, what if we had listened as a world instead of resisted? It is an honor to be here today for these commencement exercises at Antioch College, and I want us to just give one more big applause to these graduates here today. Come on. If I seem to be moving a little slow, it's because when I speak, I'm kind of like a 777. I'm not a prop plane. I have to taxi a minute. And I'm not as young as I used to be, and I've been battling a chronic disease for 40 years. Notice I said battling, because 40 years ago they told me I'd never walk again, but you can't always believe people's report. I'm a preacher, and I'm the son of a preacher. And between my mother and my father's side of the family, we can count over 800 years of preaching in my family before me, which is why, Reverend, I ran so hard away from it. But I found out you can run from God and run right into God. But I cannot come to Antioch without recalling for a moment what is recorded in the book of Acts, from which this school gets its name. They called them Christians first at Antioch. They called them Christians because they didn't have anything else to call people who had no reason to be together except that they had been knit together from all people of the earth. They were Jews, they were Gentiles, they were male and female, slave and free. They were one in Christ Jesus. And they were actually called Christians as an insult. They were called people who follow this strange brown-skinned Palestinian Jew that loves everybody. And Antioch is the great reminder in the Christian tradition that Jesus didn't come to start another religion, but to birth a fusion movement for the healing of the world. All people, my house of prayer shall be a house of prayer for all people. And if I had time for those that resist our LGBTQ plus family in the church, I would remind them that when Jesus quoted that scripture from Isaiah 56, if you go back to the prophet Isaiah 56, it says that those who are of different sexuality are not only supposed to be welcomed in the house, but have a special place of honor in the house. Go check it out. It said the eunuchs, God said, make sure that all the eunuchs, those who have different sexes, who want to worship me, that they be given an honored place. For my house shall be a house of prayer. I bet you the extremists don't read that scripture. In the 19th century, in the context of America's race-based chattel slavery, and always when you say slavery, don't just say slavery, say chattel slavery, because what made American chattel slavery different was what I call 5 evils. Sick sociology that suggests that Black and brown people could be around each other and white people, but somebody had to be high and somebody had to be low. Bad biology, that you could determine brain size by skin color. Evil economics, that the ends justifies the means. So if the end is money, it doesn't matter how you get it. Political pathology, and that is when every political decision you make has to first consider how do you keep slavery intact, and how do you make slavery generational, and how do you attach race discrimination to people based on their color so that it is perpetual. It passes from generation to generation. And then finally, heretical ontology. And that is, how do you write it up so that you say God intended it this way? And chattel slavery was not merely holding slaves, it was reducing humans to property. It was to suggest that skin color was a permanent sign of the demonic. It was to suggest that a person was no more value, had no more rights than a hog, or a cow, or a goat, or a lamb, or a dog. It was in that context that a movement was revived at the Cane Ridge Revival. And Black and white people experienced the Holy Spirit's power together. Because you see, when Antioch was founded, there was another theology going around. One part of that theology said, you don't baptize Black people because they have the permanent sign of the demonic, so there's no need. Then there was another theology that says you can baptize them to make them docile, if you will, for slavery purposes, but you make sure that they have to take an oath before they're baptized that they will in no way use their baptism as a means for freedom. And this stuff is written up in books at Harvard and Yale in the stacks. Major institutions wrote these theological treatises attempting to justify chattel slavery, but the Cane Ridge Revival, something happened. It wasn't new, because Black people knew Jesus before they came to America. The first churches in the world were in Africa. The Coptic church, first organized church, first person baptized after Pentecost was an Ethiopian who worked for this queen in Ethiopia. And if you read the book of Acts, it says that on the day of Pentecost, there were nations from all over, including all over Africa. And the last person to talk to Jesus before he went on the cross was an African, Simon of Cyrene, from Libya, what we call Libya today. And his 2 sons, Paul said their mother was like my mother. Rufus was one of his sons' names. But something happened at Cane Ridge, and the Holy Spirit brought them together and birthed to the Christian church movement. That's the church I was raised in. And that is the church that first dreamed of this institution in the mid-1800s. Antioch College was born as a vision of the Christian church, an institution where democratic ideals of freedom and the Christian commitment to service could be instilled in young people who would help a young nation grow into the more perfect union that we the people had dedicated ourselves to, but had never meant it for everybody. Antioch was born of the best of the Christian imagination and the best of democracy's ideal. Your first president, Horace Mann, was a great pioneer of public education in the United States. He worked to develop the common school systems in Massachusetts. But he came here to be your president, and he dedicated himself, he said, to two great objects which can never be rightly separated: the honor of God and the service of man. He said that anybody that tries to separate those two is engaging in sin and failure, that it is a form of heresy to say somehow you can honor God and not serve humanity. It does not make any sense. It's an oxymoron. He served here until he died, and in his last address, his last one to students, that is when he said to them, his last address, he looked those students in the eye and said, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Refuse to die. Tell death to go somewhere, because you have not yet finished your work." And that vision for education of the whole self, for service, mind, body, spirit, through a study of the past, the moral analysis of the present, and an active engagement to shape a better future for humanity, is at the heart of my own vocation as a professor of the practice now at Yale Divinity School, and as a preacher who is trying to help this nation reclaim the role of public theology to reconstruct our democracy, because I don't believe that faith and religion is mere personal piety. It really is about public theology and public policy, because Jesus began his evangelical ministry with these words: "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach good news to the poor." And the poor there, translated from Greek, is a word ptokos, P-T-C-H-O-S, which literally means those who have been made poor through economic exploitation. And his last word in that sermon was, "and to declare the acceptable year of the Lord," translated to make everybody feel welcome. That was the public policy agenda of Jesus. And it says when he preached that sermon, when he engaged in public theology at his first sermon and declared those words, it says, and that day they tried to kill him. The religionists and the extremist politicians of his day tried to kill him when he went to the ghetto of Nazareth and declared that God was concerned about the poor and the broken and the blind and the sick and the imprisoned and those who had been made to feel like they did not matter. This is the work that we're trying to engage in the School for Public Theology. And Antioch has formed and shaped some of the greatest moral fusion leaders of America's Reconstruction movement, because America has had to go through these Reconstruction movements. The first one was in the 1800s after slavery. The second one was in the 1950s up until 1968 in the 20th century. And we need a third Reconstruction. That's what really is going on right now in this country. It is the birth planes between whether we undo the victories of the second Reconstruction or whether we have the third Reconstruction to finish what we never finished in the first two Reconstructions. And this college should recognize that you have created some of the, and I want to use black vernacular here, some of the baddest sisters this nation has ever known. Y'all with me, right? Baddest, okay. All right. Olympia Brown and Mariana Wright Chapman, who understood that freedom for enslaved people and women's suffrage went hand in hand. And Coretta Scott King, who not only worked shoulder to shoulder with her husband, but led. She led. She wasn't just a wife at home. It was Coretta that actually pushed Martin more toward dealing with the issue of war. And after he was killed, murdered, assassinated, shot through the neck with a deer rifle, she still led 3 marches. Not 3 years after he was killed, but in the next 3 weeks. And one of them she led in June of 1968. It was called the Solidarity March at the beginning of the Poor People's Campaign. And she stood before some 30,000 people, and the first thing she did was she sang, "Come by here, my Lord, come by here, my Lord, come by here." She sung it in the voice that she had, very high contralto voice. And then she began to talk, and she said, she answered a question that day. Somebody had asked her what was violence really like since her husband had been murdered. And she said, well, that's a form of violence. She said, but violence is also denying a child education. Violence is also denying someone health care. Violence is not paying people a living wage. Violence is ghetto housing. Violence is stealing someone's culture and their personality. And then she declared, and violence is also an apathetic attitude that refuses to challenge these other forms of violence. So, Madam President, I'm honored to be at Antioch today because this institution represents so much of what I've tried to give my own life to. A half a century ago, during America's second Reconstruction, my parents returned to the South. I was born in Indiana. I'm a Hoosier, so don't beat me up. My father was called back to his hometown, Free Union in North Carolina, and committed our family to integrating the public schools. I was drafted at the age of 5. I want to say this because this is not some ancient history. At the age of 5, to be a foot soldier in the freedom movement. I went to segregated school. Look at me, it's not that well. I went to segregated public school until I was in the 2nd grade and was among the first to go to integrated school. And my mother was the first woman to integrate the high school secretarial pool. My father was one of the first to integrate the science department at the high school. It's not some ancient history. And it's been an honor to serve my country and continually in this struggle. My daddy, the Reverend William Barber, taught me that there's no way to be Christian without having a deep concern for justice. That you can call your religious experience whatever you want to call. He agreed with William Turner, who taught me at Duke. He said, you can call your religious experience whatever you want to call it, saved, sanctified, meditative, dipped, sprinkled, baptized. You can call it whatever you want to call it, Pentecostal, Baptist, Episcopalian, Quaker Jew, whatever you want to call it, Muslim. But if it doesn't produce a quarrel with the world's injustice, then your claim to some kind of faith in God is totally suspect. So I'm here as an evangelical Christian. Now hold up, because they've taught y'all those words that the word doesn't mean what they taught y'all. The evangelical is first connected to ministry toward the poor. That's where the word came from in the New Testament. I'm also a conservative. I'm also a biblicist. I'm also a liberal. I'm a little bit of every bit of it. I know that sounds strange, but I have to tell folk these days that they can't trust many of these so-called conservative Christians who say so much about what God says so little and so little about what God says so much. I'm a conservative because I'm fighting to conserve the heart of a tradition that teaches us to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before God. I'm a liberal because I want to liberally spread it everywhere. And I'm a biblicist because I won't allow folk to use the Bible as a weapon. Because if they want to talk Bible, I say, come on. Let's really talk it. Let's really talk Bible. Let's really talk Bible so I can tell you when Jesus said, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was sick, did you come see me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. You want to talk Bible? Come on. You come on. I stand before you as a servant of a brown-skinned Palestinian Jew who said, woe unto you if you've neglected the weightier matters of the law, love, justice, and mercy. I stand before you one who preached the prophets like Isaiah 10 that says, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children pray, not P-R-A-Y, but P-R-E-Y. So I don't have any choice but to conserve this heart of my faith tradition and at the same time share God's love liberally with the world. So my heart is troubled. by the ways that we see faith being cynically used to serve hate and fear and greed. At best, it's theological malpractice. At worst, it's heresy. It's heresy. And our nation has heard enough meanness. Today, we need to heed the voice of the prophets, to listen to that ancient chorus which deep calls unto deep. We need to hear. In the Message Bible, there's a text, Isaiah 58. Let me read it to you. It says, this is what God wants. It says, this is what sin is. You drive your employees too hard. You fast, but at the same time, you bicker and fight. You refuse to pay your workers a living wage. And then you think that's the kind of religion I want? No, the kind of fast, the kind of religion I want is the kind that will break the chains of injustice, get rid of exploitation in the workplace, pay people what they deserve, free the oppressed, cancel the debt. I want the kind that causes you to share your food with the hungry and invite the homeless into your home, into your places, and put clothes on those who are unclothed. I want the kind of religion that is available to your families when they're down. And if you do this, then you will be called a repairer of the breach. We need to hear the words of Jesus over and over and over again. Our prophets are speaking to America in 2025. Even Prophet Muhammad, when Prophet Muhammad says the believers, both men and women, are in charge and responsible for one another. They all enjoin the doing of what is right, and they forbid the doing of what is wrong. This prophetic vision inspired this college. This prophetic vision inspired the imperfect authors of our constitutions to commit our government to establish justice. I know they didn't do it right. I know they were flawed. I know they were slaves. But see, I don't believe that they were the ones necessarily guiding the pen, because to be true for the matter, as slaveholders, if they were the ones fully guiding the pen, they would never have written established justice, and they never would have written a constitution that could be amended. Something else was going on. Something else was going on. Because we must confess that we have never lived this vision of establishing justice, providing for the common defense, promoting the general welfare, and ensuring domestic tranquility perfectly. We've lived it imperfectly. And we must proclaim that this, though, should be the goal at the heart of our justice. What if we took every piece of public policy and asked this question: does it establish justice? Does it provide for the common defense? Does it promote the general welfare? Does it ensure domestic tranquility? Does it ensure equal protection under law for all, not citizens, persons? Persons. And the truth of the matter is, our deepest moral, constitutional, and religious traditions are clear that the only thing that makes a nation exceptional is the way in her heart and in her practices she cares for the least of these. And so, when we witness attempts to forsake our moral traditions and use religion as a camouflage for meanness, the truth of the matter, we have to say, as America, we have a heart problem. Down in the heart of Dixie in the South, where I come from, we've been feeling the pain of this heart problem. It's as old as the original sin of racism itself. Jim Crow is dead and gone, but one of his sons went to law school and set up a shop as James Crow Esquire, put on a suit, and he has been advising legislatures in many of the state capitals around the country, even here in Ohio, where politicians' lips are once again dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. Politicians that one minute want to cry out against the wrong of Trump, but forget when those same politicians were in power here in Ohio, they cut welfare and didn't allow people to have a way to come up. They cut safety nets. Some of the sin we see now, even just Trump's sin, is just a regurgitation of what other people started before him. When 60 years after Republicans and Democrats came together to pass the Voting Rights Act, we now have less voter protections and more active voter suppression than we have seen since Jim Crow. Somebody is trying to harden the heart of this nation. when 10 states refused to expand Medicaid and provide health care to their poorest citizens and children and the disabled and even disabled veterans. And the Congress is now considering cuts that would take health care away from 16 million Americans. Even as those same congresspersons get free health care themselves just when they get elected by the people, we've got a heart problem. When the analyzers tell us in the first year, if this budget is passed, it will kill 51,000 people. That this is not just bad legislation, it's policy murder. When the budget will cut millions of children and adults from food stamps at the very time that food is higher than it's ever been in recent history. And when they will give trillions of dollars to the war economy, but then cut food out of people's mouths, we have a heart problem. When public education is dismantled and our schools are being resegregated under the code words of choice, we have a heart problem. When rogue police undermine good police by killing unarmed black bodies and brown bodies and poor white bodies and terrorizing immigrant communities en masse, and legitimate outcry against this injustice into an anti-American mantra, we have a heart problem in this country. When people are dying in the streets, and the best response we have is to make it easier to buy guns, we have a heart problem. When poor children who survived the lead bullets have to face lead in their water, in their drinking water, we have a heart problem. When there are today 140 million poor and low-wage people in this country, 26% of all, 30% of all African, 60% of African Americans, which is 26 million people, 30% of white folk, which is 66 million people. In a country where 400 families make an average of $97,000 an hour. But every Republican and 8 Democrats voted against raising the minimum wage to a living wage of at least $15 to $16 an hour. And do you know that living wages was on the agenda of the March on Washington? They wanted to raise it by 75% and index it with inflation. We've not raised the minimum wage since 2009. It's $7.25 and $2.13 for people who work in the restaurant industry. And when we can see this kind of greed, we have a heart problem. Folk would rather give $2 trillion of cuts to the wealthy. And this is more money being transferred from the poor to the wealthy than was transferred during slavery. When politicians, the Supreme Court robs transgender children of their rights. And when politicians who see our demographics shifting and the country becoming more black and brown and progressive whites, and they're scared of it. So they want to pass a budget so by the time it happens in 2035, the government will be broke. We have a heart problem. When we have 5 interlocking injustices, systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, the war economy, and the false religious doctrine of white religious nationalism are still trolling our democracy, we have a heart problem. But I didn't come today just to tell you the problem. I came to tell you there have always been people who stood and stand together to stir what Sister Dorothy Day called a revolution of the heart, a revolution that must begin with each of us. The revolution of the heart brought poor whites and formerly enslaved black people together in the 1800s, and they formed what was called fusion coalitions throughout the South. And in 4 years, they had basically taken over every state legislature. Was by the lynching and the violence of the Klan against white and black fusionists. There's always been some people. The revelation of the heart is what stirred Teddy Roosevelt to break with both parties in 1912 and give a bull speech and declare that protecting the land and Social Security and living wages are a moral issue. Is what caused Frances Perkins to want to be a labor secretary, the first woman labor secretary, but she brought the teachings of the social gospel movement that were part of Antioch into that work. When folk embrace our deepest moral values in a revolution of the heart, that's how we got the women's suffrage movement. And you got Sojourner Truth and Elizabeth Cady Stanton working together. That's how we got the New Deal. That's how we got the GI Bill. That's how we got Social Security. 1935, they didn't allow the agrarian culture and the domestic culture to pay in, which cut out 50% of white women and most black people and brown people. But in 1954, it was changed. All of these changes, support for rural hospitals, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the War on Poverty, the Americans with Disability Act, the Affordable Care Act, the fight for gender rights, all of these movements came when somebody had a revolution of the heart. And so today, I come to tell you that only a revolution of the heart can resurrect our democracy. We need a third Reconstruction in America. And it must begin with moral revolution of values that need you. Because some issues are not left versus right or Democrat versus Republican. It's really about right versus wrong. And I want you to know as you graduate, when you fight to reinstate the pre-clearance power of the voting rights and declare eternal animosity against voter suppression, you are embracing our deepest moral values and you are reviving the heart of this democracy. When you say you stand against us dropping bunker busting bombs when we won't bust up poverty so people can live, you are reviving the heart of our democracy. When you fight to secure pro-labor, anti-poverty policies that ensure that everybody has economic sustainability, and you fight for a living wage, and you fight for health care, you are reviving the heart of this democracy. When you say God's grace ought to shed on everybody, regardless of their race, their color, their creed, or their sexuality, when you fight in a country of immigrants to welcome immigrants and you stand against raiding people in the middle of the night, you are indeed reviving the heart of this democracy. When you fight and when you cry out for tax policy that no longer funnel the nation's prosperity into the pockets of the wealthy, but instead lift up all people, you are fighting to revive the heart of our democracy. When you fight to provide every child with high quality, well-funded, constitutional, diverse public education, then you are fighting to revive the heart of this democracy. When you say that the Jesus you served everywhere set up health clinics and never charged a leper a copay, so there's no reason why America can't have universal health care, you are reviving the heart of America. And when you resist war and the proliferation of military-style weapons in our streets, and you stand against a stronghold of the NRA, you are reviving the heart of democracy. When you protect and expand women's rights and LGBTQ plus rights and religious freedom rights and immigrant rights, every right that is about equality, whenever you stand for it, you are reviving the heart of this democracy. And we need you. We need you. And remember, that what we are facing now is not the worst thing that this nation has ever faced. Turn to your neighbor and say, get up, get up, get up, get up. Tell them, say, get up, get up. Don't act like this is the worst thing. This is not worse than slavery. This is not worse than poor white men not being able to vote from the beginning of this. It is not worse than women being left out of the right to vote. It's not worse than the land that was stolen. No. It's just our time. It's our time to fight for the heart of democracy. We may not be Martin King and Rosa Parks, but we are their children. It's just our time. It's our time. And we got to remember, in 1850, when the Dred Scott decision was passed by a stacked Supreme Court, and the abolitionists thought that the abolition movement was over because the Supreme Court said a black man had no rights that a white person ever had to pay attention to, Frederick Douglass got depressed. He thought about quitting. And Sojourner Truth saw him in Philadelphia with his head in his hands. And she asked him one question. She said, Frederick, Is God dead? And Frederick said it shook him to his core. And he had to decide that slavery wasn't going to be his God. He had to decide that that Supreme Court wasn't going to be his God. He had to decide that chattel slavery wasn't going to be his God. And so he gave a speech about 2 months later. He told how bad the things were. He called decisions monstrous and ugly. And then he said, but I received this decision with a cheerful spirit because I know that every attempt to stop the abolition movement has only served to intensify and embolden our agitation. It's not time for you to quit. It's time for you to intensify and embolden your agitation. That's why, as I close, that's why millions of people met and keep meeting in Indivisible this past week and continue to mobilize, because folks are saying we're not going anywhere. We're not going to give up. We've cried too much and prayed too much and worked too hard to just walk away from this democracy. This is not the time for us to say, oh my God, they got all the power. This is the time for us to come together and say, no, we have the power if we stand up and walk in that power. A few weeks ago, 120 of us went to the Capitol Hill to start tomorrow, Monday, and I want to invite all of you all to come. On June 30th, I need the Antioch, I need some grads, I need you all to come. And we start 120, and 3 of us went into Rotunda. They said we couldn't pray. They said, if you pray, we're going to arrest you. So a Franciscan and a former white evangelical, a negative in that way, has changed, and he was in there and I was in there, and we began to pray right in front of the statues of the suffragists, and they came and arrested us, yeah. And so then we came back 2 weeks later, 2,000 people showed up, 10 times more, and 12 people went in, 9 were arrested. They arrested me, they arrested my wife, they arrested some other folk that had been there before, but then they made a mistake. They arrested a woman with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, holding a Bible, standing for people with Medicaid. And we told her, you don't have to get arrested. She said, yes, I do, because I want the world to see who they're going to hurt with this budget. And by God, 10 million people saw it on social media. And all of a sudden, we started getting called from some senators saying, we don't think we can cut Medicaid like this. Could you talk to us about how we could do it a little different? Now, I'm not saying the battle has been won, but SEIU decided they're going to turn all of their attention now toward the Senate. People are standing up. Other people with disabilities are going to come on June the 30th. We're coming back. We're going right back to the Rotunda. We're going to pray in the Rotunda. They don't know what to do with it because we're not cussing. We're not fussing. We're praying, but we're praying about injustice and we're praying about wrong. And what they don't know is when I pray about it, that means I'm going to be about it. When I pray about it, it means I'm standing. When I pray about it, it means I'm rattling the cage of God. When I pray about it, it means I've set my heart like flint. And not only are we praying about it, we're praying in full robes, in regalia. I have on a full ministerial robe, and the other ministers come, and the rabbis come, and the imams come, and the Sikh come, and even people who don't have faith, but they believe in the Marlock of the universe, even they are coming, and it's starting to break through. It's starting to break through, and they don't know what to do. Why? Because we have been called to revive the heart of this country. And so I close with this. This nation needs a heart fixing. That's how we talk about it down south. My grandma used to say you need a heart fixing and a mind regulation. We are strongest when we stand together and decide we're going forward together. And we gotta, now they tell me that when a heart is in danger, when the heart is in danger, somebody with a good heart has to call a code. And when they call a code, the team comes and they bring a defibrillator. Because in the hands of a good person with a good heart and a good doctor, it's possible to shock a bad heart and to revive the pulse again. In this season, when far too many people want to harden and stop the heart of this democracy, we who believe in freedom, we who believe in the heart of this democracy is worth saving. We are being called right now by our foremothers and fathers and by history to be the moral defibrillators of our time. We must shock this nation with the power of love. We must shock this nation with the power of truth telling. We must shock this nation with grace and mercy and justice for all and voting power and equality and prayers and unity. We can't give up on the heart of this democracy now, not ever. So I come by to ask this class, is there a heart in this class today? Is there anybody that's got a heart for the poor, or a heart for the vulnerable, or a heart for truth, or a heart for equality? Is there a heart in this class for somebody to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all? Let me ask it like this. Is there anybody that's gay that's got a heart? I need somebody gay to come right here. Is there anybody trans? Come on, come on. Is there anybody trans that's got a heart? I need somebody right here. Is there anybody Native American? I need you to come right now. Come stand right here. Is there anybody been to prison but you're out? I need you to come right here. Is there anybody that's 70 years old, white or black? Come up here. Is there anybody 50 years old, white or black? Come up here. Is there anybody that's a woman that's got a heart? Come on over here. Come closer to me. Is there any male that got a heart? Is there some young person? Is there anybody with a disability that's got a heart? Come on up here. I just need one or two. Just come on up here. Is there somebody who was poor and they told you weren't gonna make it? Come on up here. Is there anybody that loves making a difference? Just one of you. Come on up here, because I'm telling you, it's time, give me your hand, for us to stand together. It's time for us to move together. Give me your hand. It's time for us to fight together. It's time for us to believe together, because this is what they're scared of, that we might be the defibrillator, the defibrillator, and we can shock this nation with the heart of love. Are y'all ready to shock this nation with the power of love? Then stand up and fight back and push hard. And while you're pushing, sing that old hymn, revive us again. Fill each heart with thy love. May each soul be rekindled with fire from above. Hallelujah. Thine the glory. Hallelujah. Thine the glory. Hallelujah. Thine the glory. We will shock the heart of this nation again. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay, oh my God. I know I'm not supposed to say that. Oh my God, this is like unbelievable. Thank you so much for a very inspiring talk, and we're all really ready to shock the nation. I think that's true.
June the 30th. Come on, get this.
Okay, June 30th. Okay. Right now we're going to give Reverend Barber an honorary degree. And this is probably the first honorary degree. Well, it is the first honorary degree anyone has received from Antioch, definitely since reopening. But I don't know if before that, if there was ever an honorary degree. So it may be actually the very first in all the time Antioch has been here, possibly. So Antioch College proudly confers upon Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II the degree of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, honoris causa, in recognition of his tireless work as a champion for social justice, civil rights, and moral leadership in America. As a prophetic voice for justice, Dr. Barber has dedicated his life to challenging systemic racism, poverty, and inequality, while inspiring others to join the fight for a fair and equitable society. And I think we witnessed that right now. Yeah, he definitely inspired us all. His work as the architect of Moral Mondays movement, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, an advocate for voting rights and health equity, has transformed the moral landscape of our nation, reminding us that the measure of a society lies in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Dr. Barber's profound commitment to the principle of justice, love, and equality resonates deeply with Antioch's mission of educating students to become courageous and effective agents of change. His leadership, courage, and unwavering moral clarity exemplify the transformative power of combining scholarship and action, inspiring generations to strive for a better, more just world. For his steadfast commitment to the greater good, his courageous voice for the marginalized, and his unyielding pursuit of social and economic justice, Antioch College is honored to recognize Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II with the degree of Doctor of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, honoris causa. With gratitude and respect, on this 21st day of June in the year 2025 at Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio.
To receive this on the day that I buried my father. 47 years, 37 years ago. It's more than you can know. Thank you.
I'm gonna cry. Okay, so now we're going to have the degree conferral on this day. Yes.
Yeah, it's just this. Okay, okay. What are you looking for? Okay. Candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science. Sawyer Perry, self-design major, applied environmental science, magna cum laude. Aiden Westmoreland, self-design major, culture, power, and change, summa cum laude. Bachelor of Arts degrees, Skunk Berkmeyer, self-design major, feminist, literary, and cultural studies, summa cum laude. Shelby Douglas, self-design major, culture, power, change, cum laude. Daniel Dinan, self-design major, philosophy and sustainable practice, summa. Jennifer Casey Fries, self-design major, media and visual arts, summa cum laude. Ray Graham, self-design major, interdisciplinary arts and creative practice. Michaela Stephanie Hall, self-design major, environmental design, summa cum laude. Trinity Rose Harris Brewer, self-design major, interdisciplinary arts and creative practice, cum laude.
Saul Azil Martinez Velasquez, self-design major, culture, power, change. Pamela Martinez Ibarra, self-design major, interdisciplinary arts and community engagement. Bridget Padilla, self-design major, interdisciplinary arts and creative practice. Chanel Phillips, self-design major, culture, power, change. Lee Wade, self-design major, interdisciplinary arts and creative practice, cum laude. Luke B. Warwick, self-design major, culture, power, change, magna cum laude. And now we welcome to the stage Coco Gagnet, 2018 graduate of Antioch College and current president of the Alumni Board.
Hello, everyone. I'm deeply grateful to be here with you today. My task is to welcome you graduates to the Antioch College Alumni Association. Perhaps a now familiar exercise of your liberal arts education is to begin by defining the terms. What is it exactly that I'm welcoming you into? What does it mean to be an alum of Antioch College? To somehow bear Antiochian as a part of your biography or identity, and to be in community with fellow alums associating with them. I often think about Miranda Joseph's book, Against the Romance of Community, which questions the signifier of community as an unquestionable good. Community in its rhetorical and social processes can be mobilized for any sort of cause, which is to say that oppressive ideologies also couch themselves in discourses of community. How do we think about the community of Antioch alumni who constitute the association? We are linked by a common connection to the college across time and institutional iteration, and yet deeply heterogeneous. Not all of my Antioch is your Antioch and vice versa. Are there integral parts, and what are they? How can I invite you to make your own meaning instead of attempting to absorb you into a narrative about what Antioch is and how to belong to its legacy? How to invite you into the presence of this momentous occasion and simultaneously to the association, which assumes a continuity or ongoingness. I reflect on these complications because I find it essential, but also in sincere anticipation of any cynicism. We may be rightfully wary of community as a romantic endeavor, and maybe romance in general, but I want to offer that perhaps a little romance is of the essence. I've been thinking about English poet William Blake and the romantic response to the rise of industrial capitalism. Amidst increasing integration of the world, the attempt to break down life to bare efficiency and to mechanize it, the Romantics believed in the rebellion of beautiful excess. Here, we might also think of Saidiya Hartman's adaptation of the Lordian refrain, "Beauty is not a luxury." There are many resonances with our techno-accelerationist present, and so I think abandoning romance doesn't get us to some measurable core wherein we can finally see the world with some clarity. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but getting to be a part of Antioch has been one of the most romantic experiences of my life. The site of my most transformative relationships, of a learning that continues to invite the labors of responsibility, potentiality, and justice at the heart of our honor code. I hope it has given you the same. Romance, The willingness to confer our attention, to be seduced by the beauty of a beloved community predicated on radical hospitality might inspire our devotion. And what is this long work of freedom without devotion? I did not realize until after graduating, and really until joining the alumni board, what it means to take up the vocation of intergenerational work in all its contingencies and commitments, its struggle and self-evidence. I have cultivated friendships with alums of all ages, and I believe we learn with one another, imperfectly, to sustain vital practices of care. Together, we continue to participate in this project of holding the world open, of helping to hold Antioch open, between past and future, an expansive dimensionality more than a linearity. This is the gift, and I contend that a welcome is almost always a gift that I extend to you. Receiving it is another question. And so I want to be romantic about the fact that today you are joining a long and intricate inheritance of which you are now an indelible and irreplaceable part. And we are so happy you're here. Thank you.
Okay, it's finally time to say congratulations to the class of 2025. We thank you for all you gave to Antioch College during your time here, leaving your mark on this institution, and for helping shape the college for generations of future Antiochians. We believe your commitment to win victories for humanity, and we are graciously accepting your plea for us to do the same. Please now wait. We'll hear from the World House Choir. And then please wait for just a moment and follow the procession out for a short traditional mound ceremony. Okay? Thank you, everyone.
Wow.
Well, I marched through the storm, and I marched through the rain, and I marched through some sickness and some heartache and pain. And I laid on the ground, and I looked up at the sky, and I prayed to the Lord up above, and that's why. But oh no, I'm not tired, I'm not through marching yet. And I will march till I die, oh children, this you can bet. And we'll sing out, I'm gonna sing out, I'm gonna march on. Everybody say I'm gonna march on. Everybody sing out, sing out. Ooh, gonna march on. Oh, well, my grandma marched, and my granddaddy too. And I never thought it'd be something that I'd have to do. But I'll march if I must. On a mission to see, then I'll be damned if my children have too much for me. Now I believe in the power of raising my voice, and I believe in the power of making some noise. And if I die, I can't sing, and if I can't sing, I'll die. So we'll sing with one another, so let's give it a try. We'll sing I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna use my voice. Yeah. Gonna march on. my brother, for my mother. I'm gonna march on, yeah. Gonna march on, gonna march on. Sing it with me. Gonna march on, gonna march on. Everybody sing it. I'm gonna sing out. I'm gonna come go with me, sing. I'm gonna sing. Come on, I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. You sing, I'm gonna sing out. I'm gonna sing out. I'm gonna march on. For my family, I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. Hey, gonna march on. Gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna march on. Yeah. I'm gonna sing out, I'm gonna march on, I'm gonna sing out, yeah. And I'm gonna march on, yeah.